Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to learn about pivoting. Now, pivoting describes the use of two new functions called pivot longer and pivot wider function. These are the improved alternative to gather and spread function. When I say the improved alternative, that doesn't mean the gather and spread function has been discontinued. It's just that they are not in the active development. They are being just left it as it is. Now, as like gather and spread function, pivot longer and pivot wider does the same thing but with much more advanced features. As you know, pivot longer, the word describes that you can make any column or more than one column longer in any data sets, and pivot wider, as the word describes, you can make any column wider in any data sets. Let's go back to Rstudio and we'll see some example of it. As we are in the Rstudio now, let's see some example of pivot longer and pivot wider. Not every time you can use pivot longer and pivot wider function. It depends upon the datasets. Sometimes datasets are so badly compiled that we cannot do any kind of visualization or analysis in that. So for that we need pivot longer and pivot wider function. It depends upon when to use and how to use and where to use. Let's see some example. First we need a dataset. For this I'm going to use a table 1 dataset which comes with the Tidyverse package. If you see the dataset, first I have to call the package. Now the package is running. I'm going to call the dataset. As you can see, there are 4 columns: country, year, cases and population. Now if you see in the first column, the country column, you see duplicates values for each country has been mentioned. On the next 2 country column, you see a year column in which you have 2 years mentioned, 1999 and 2000. Now this is the situation where you can use pivot wider function, and you can also apply pivot longer function. But just for to see how the pivot longer and pivot wider function works, we're going to apply those 2 functions to table 1 dataset. So we're gonna first apply pivot wider function to it. Let's see example of pivot wider. Pivot wider names. You have to be very careful when you apply arguments to it, because slight mistake will give an error to you. Now here I am going to give 2 names, one cases and another population. If you are thinking about why 2 names, then I'll provide you an answer to it. Because when we are making our columns wider, we have used names from, that is, year. We want to separate this 99 and 2000 into 2 columns and add values of cases and population to it. Now the thing is here that As cases and population are two columns, it will actually expand it into a four column, that is cases 99, cases 2000, and population 99 and population 2000. You will see, now you see what I was trying to say. Now if we apply pivot longer function to it, it doesn't goes back to the data set we saw as it here. It works a bit differently than we think of it. It does. Let's see a example of it. First we have to store this code, so for that I will name it pivot wider. Okay, now I'm going to apply pivot longer to this pivot wider. Pivot longer, now it requires more than one or two arguments to it, because when you are making a column longer, or sorry, a column longer, it needs specific arguments to it, so it understand what you are trying to make it do. Otherwise it will make a mistake and will give you an error. Names prefix. Now as you see, the case 99 and case 2000 has been made longer, but the population 99 and population 2000 stays as it is. We can make this longer too, just we have to make few changes in our arguments. To remove these underscores from here, we just have to make this. We copy this down here and let's just run it. As you can see, it's made wider, but it doesn't make it as we think it would do and make it look like as the earlier data set. Pivot longer function can best be applied to a data set where we have too many columns of similar prefix, but we have to make it tidier. Let's see one or I can say two example of it. Billboard. In this data set you see there are too many columns named after WK prefix and 113. As you see here, W1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is the typical data sets where we can apply pivot longer and it will give a much more beautiful result. Let's see pivot. Now column, each and every column after wk1 starts with wk. So we're gonna give starts with columns name starts with wk. The prefix week and the values to say count. Now as you see there are NAs in column week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7. So there must be multiple NAs in each and every column. So to remove that NA, we're gonna just give one more argument to it, values drop NA. It uses boolean kind of name, so we're gonna give true. Now you see there is a week column